Hello, I welcome you once again to Supply Chain Management Lecture Series. Today, we are going to be discussing procurement of medical laboratory commodities. I am Dr. Ifeyinwa Mary Ann Okafor. Section objectives. It is expected that at the end of this class, you should be able to define procurement, identify characteristics of a quality procurement program, identify steps of procurement process, define direct and indirect procurement, identify national and international procurement laws, define indirect procurement as applied to United States government procurement mechanisms. We have logistics cycle. I'm sure by now you must be familiar with this diagram. You see where we have procurement, forecasting and procurement immediately after product selection. But you should remember that at the center of our logistics cycle, we have logistic management information system, and we have quality monitoring at every stage of the system. Now, we have done quantification. And you remember in our previous class, we defined quantification as a process of forecasting and supply planning. And it is expected that for you to get to your procurement stage, you must be able to have quantified the amount of product that you need for your program. Remember, during forecasting, you must have estimated the amount of product that you need within a period of time in the future. And then you must have arrived at a figure, and you must have converted this particular figure to Naira. That is the amount of money that you actually need to procure your products. And then during supply planning, you have planned, gathered information, clean your data, do your assumptions, and then gather information about the products you want to procure, and then the vendors and all that will supply you the product, and the time it will take to get to your facility. And then you now get to procurement stage proper. Now, what is procurement? What is procurement? Procurement is process of obtaining or acquiring supplies, goods, and services. Process of obtaining or acquiring supplies, goods, and services. There are reasons why we need good or quality procurement program in our facilities. Why do we need quality procurement program? We need quality procurement program, one, to ensure the availability of the right products in the right quantities, in the right condition, delivered to the right place at the right time and for the right cost. You remember that the essence of logistic system is to deliver the goods right to our clients. And good or quality procurement program will help us immensely in delivering these goods right to our clients, to deliver the right products in the right quantity, in the right condition, delivered to the right place at the right time, and for the right cost. Good procurement program will also help us to reduce costs, develop mutually beneficial long-term relationship with suppliers, select reliable suppliers of quality products, and ensure timely delivery and notification. It will also help us to clear specification, limit our procurement of vital and essential commodities, bulk purchase and pooled procurement. It will help us to do bulk purchase and pooled procurement, other quantities based on reliable estimate of actual needs. Takes us to other quantities of things that we really need. Separation of key function, regular reporting on performance, helps us to develop long-term relationship with our suppliers, and also periodic re-evaluation of the total market and procurement plan. Now, procurement programs are bound by laws and standards. They are bound by law and standards, and they are designed to operate under specific and stringent laws and standards in different countries. We have in-country laws like federal and state procurement laws. We have also funding mechanisms, guidelines on procurement. The funders, they have their guidelines on procurement. And then we also have, United States government procurement regulations like FAR, Federal Acquisition Regulation, ADA, AIDAR, which is United States Agency for International Development Acquisition Regulation, or USAID Acquisition Regulation, and other applicable United States government regulations. At the global stage, we have Global Fund, and they are regulated by WHO United Nations guidelines. And we have procurement ethics and code of ethics. So procurement process programs are designed to operate under specific and stringent laws and standards. We have in-country laws, for example. In in-country laws, we have where, what with who, and why of procurement and practices are determined by these laws. That is where you do the procurement, what with the things you need for the procurement, and with who, where you're procuring, and why you want to do that. All these practices are determined by these laws, that is in-country laws and standards, fueling different versions and mechanisms of procurement. Example of in-country laws in relation to medical laboratory commodity procurement. In Nigeria, we have the federal government law under the Medical Laboratory Science Council, the MLSCN Act 11, 2013, which controls the procurement and distribution of medical laboratory commodities. In Nigeria, example of in-country law we have in Nigeria in relation to medical laboratory commodity procurement is the MLSCN Act 11, 2013, Medical Laboratory Science Council Act 11, 2013, which controls the procurement and distribution of medical laboratory commodities. Preparing for procurement, there are things that you need. Requirements. One, approved and funded supply plan with shipment schedule, dates to order, ship, receive, and quantities to procure. Remember, before this stage of procurement, you must have done your quantification, which involves forecasting and supply planning. So you must have sent your supply plan to the relevant authority for approval. So before you start your procurement proper, you need approved and funded supply plan with shipment schedule and quantities to procure. Remember, you get all this information during forecasting and also during supply plan stage of quantification. So you know quantity to order, and also you know whether you have the available fund to order. So you send to the relevant authority for approval, and then you get it ready for your procurement process. And then you have authorized procurement unit team or department to process the procurement. Your facility, there should be procurement team. There should be a unit responsible for that. So you have your authorized procurement unit or team or department to process the procurement. And then you have appropriate location, space, and condition, that is cold chain, to receive commodities on as scheduled. And you have medical laboratory considerations, like laboratory procurement process can be longer due to the large number of small vendors. Keep in mind specifications, that is short life and cold chain, that need to be accounted for in supply chains. You need to keep in mind, special conditions with regards to some medical laboratory products, their shelf life, and then if they are cold chain. Then there are steps in procurement process. There are 4 key steps that are involved in procurement process. Number 1 is inquiry. Number 2 is quotation. Number 3 is ordering. Number 4 is shipping and delivery. 4 key steps of procurement process are inquiry, quotation, ordering, shipping, and delivery. Let us take a closer look at number 1, inquiry. Let us take a closer look at number 1, inquiry. 1, the first thing you do during this stage is you need to clarify specification with the clients. You need to clarify specification with the clients. Specifications include product information, regulatory and shipping packaging requirements, manufactured at place with good manufacturing practice, certification with WHO, pre-qualification status to meet quality assurance standards. And you also consider technical specifications. At the inquiry stage, what you need to do is 1, to clarify specification with the client. The clients, the vendors you want to consider. You need to clarify the specification of the product that you want to acquire with them. Do they have good manufacturing practice? They need to include the product information, the regulatory and the shipping and packaging requirements of their product. And also, you have to make sure that their product meets quality assurance standard. Then, the second thing that you need to do is to do what? You have to consider technical specifications of the product you want to acquire. For example, laboratory equipment, you need to be sure. What do you want? Is it a closed system or open system? So you need to know exactly what you want. Is it a closed system or open system? Then the reagents, availability of the reagents, very, very important. Because you wouldn't want to procure equipment that you get the reagent today. In the next 6 months, you won't be able to find the reagent. Then you have to look at laboratory commodities, the durables, and the consumables. And the inquiry steps, you also need to determine which procurement option is right based on your particular context. Which procurement option is right based on your particular context? For example, for medical laboratory instruments, you need to consider some of these things. At least 12-month warranty after acceptance of the installed instrument. At this stage of inquiry, you need to have an agreement with the clients. Be sure they are going to deliver in these areas. At least 12 months warranty after acceptance of the installed instruments. Number 2, installation and training on site. There is needless of you acquiring equipment, and the people that are going to handle this equipment might not know how to handle it. So you need to have an agreement with them, if possible, for them to come and train the end users on site. Startup kits of reagents and controls. You need to get the startup kit from them and controls. 1 set of operating manual in hard and soft copy per instrument. The instrument that you are going to use, they need to give you 1 set of hard copy, that is the manual in hard copy and soft copy for each of the instruments. Then technical and financial part of maintenance agreement after the warranty period. You need to agree at this stage how you will continue your equipment maintenance. So you need to agree on technical and financial part of maintenance agreement after the warranty period is over. Then the list of reagent consumables and controls. So we decided at this stage, and then the cost for the instrument has to be included. The cost for the reagents or the price per test for closed system. For closed system, where you need to procure the reagent only from the manufacturer of the equipment, you need to agree on the cost of the reagent per test. So at the inquiry steps, you need to agree on some of these terms with your clients before you go into procurement proper. Now, for laboratory equipment too, countries have a machine algorithm which determines which machine that they will buy. For example, if that is obtainable in your country, some machines are closed system. You should know that. This means that reagents are procured only from that particular manufacturer, like I said earlier. You need to consider these laboratory specifications, confirm them from your clients before you go ahead to procure. Do you want closed system or open system? Some machines are closed system. What this means is that reagents are procured only from that particular manufacturer. Special consideration must be made for each medical reagents category due to their different requirements and specifications. Example, you need to consider short shelf life, cold chain requirement during distribution. And then for laboratory commodities that like durables and consumables, many products to keep track of, certification of quality assurance are the main thing to consider at this stage. For your consumables and durables, certification of quality assurance is the main thing that you should consider. Step 2, in inquiry stage of the procurement process, you solicit bids from vendors. When you have clarified all these things from your vendors, you know what you want. You ask your vendors to give you specification of what they have, the laboratory equipment, the laboratory reagents, the durables, the consumables. When they have given you the specification of what they have, what they can offer, you sit down and know what you want. When you know what you want, you now do what? You now solicit for bids from the vendor that you have selected. Bids are solicited through issuance of a request. You need to issue a request for proposal. It is not verbally done. Bids are solicited through the issuance of a request for proposal, unless there are grounds for a single source justification. It's done issuance of a request for proposal, RFP, unless you don't do that if you have an agreement on ground for single source justification. Now let us look at what is single source. Single source occurs when only one source is selected, although there are other companies known to provide the same goods and services. Single source justification. Single source is when only one source is selected to supply a particular product, even when there are other companies known to provide the same goods and services. Why sole source occurs when there is only one source that can meet a specialized requirement. Sole source occurs when there is only one source that can meet a specialized requirement. Example, when you have a closed system for any testing procedure, like CD4, what it means is that you must procure the reagent from that particular manufacturer. That is a sole source. Okay? Let us look at single or sole source justification. Why do you need to have a single source for a particular reagent at any point in time. For example, client or government it can be directed by the government. For example, client and government directed acquisition refers to a situation wherein the client or government identify a supplier by name and in writing by the USAID contracting officer or Ministry of Health Minister or ambassador with a reason for the direction as the source for goods and services. What I'm saying that justification for single source might be because of directive from the government agencies like Ministry of Health Minister, ambassador, or funders like United States Agency for International Development, controlling officer, with a good reason in writing for the direction for you to use that particular source for goods and services. Or in a situation where you have only one responsible source and no other supplier or services will satisfy agency requirements. In a situation where you have only that particular source being able to satisfy the agency requirement, they can be used as a single source. Or where you have in a facility unusual and compelling agency for a particular product, unusual and compelling agency for a particular product, or authorized or it is required by states, and then public interest. Example, sole source occurs when using a medical laboratory machine that is closed system and requires the use of one reagent produced by one manufacturer, like we said earlier. The second stage, quotation. The second stage of procurement process, we have looked at inquiry. The next thing we are looking at now is quotation. At this stage, you need to select your vendors and then determine assessment and selection criteria based on landed costs, best value, and quality. You have to select your vendors. You need to determine assessment and selection criteria. That's why you are selecting this particular vendor. There must be a reason why you are selecting this particular vendor over others. So, and the selection should be based on selection criteria that is based on the landed costs, best value, and quality. Let's look at what is landed cost. This is the total cost of a product from manufacturer until arrival at the client's door. This includes the original cost of the item, all brokerage and logistic fee, complete shipping costs, custom duty, tariffs, taxes, insurance, currency conversion, creating costs, and handling fees. The landed cost is the total cost of a product from the manufacturer until it arrives at the client's door. So what it means is this: before you select a vendor, because already you have done your quantification, you have done your supply plan, you know the amount that you have to spend on that particular product. So you need to sit down and make sure before you select a vendor, make sure that the cost of getting that product from where it is manufactured down to your facility does not exceed the amount that you have in your hand, the amount available for the procurement of that particular product. Note, all of these components of landed cost are present. Not all of these components of product are present in every shipment, but must be considered as part of landed cost. It is not every time you have all these components of landed cost being present. It depends on where you are getting your product from. If it is international or local, okay? So but when they are there, it must be considered as part of a landed cost and should be taken into consideration before selecting a particular vendor. Another thing that you need to consider before selecting a particular vendor is best value. You need to get the best value for your money. So what is best value? This is selection process in which the final selection criterion includes subjective consideration, not just the lowest price. You are not just considering the lowest price of the product. You are also considering getting best value for your money. So it is the selection process in which the final selection criterion includes subjective consideration, not just the lowest price. And each criterion has a weighted value predicated on each of those areas of importance to the procurement that will total the final ranking of suppliers being considered. Then let's look at quality. Quality ensures that products delivered are appropriate for their intended use and meet all required standards. So before you select a particular vendor, you need to consider the landed cost, the cost, which is the cost of getting the product from where it is manufactured to the facility where it should be used. Then you need to consider the best value, the product that will give you the best value for your money, not just the lowest price. And then you need to consider quality. You need to ensure that the product delivered or the product you want to procure or the vendor you want to select must give you the product that will be appropriate for their intended use and meet all required standards. Meet all required standards. Then quotation continues. The document selection process. The document selection process. Note, once you have determined the assessment and selection criteria, and you have selected your vendor, you will need to document the selection process and provide quotation to the client. Once you have determined the assessment, you have done the assessment, and you have done selection criteria based on landed cost, best value, and quality, and you have selected your vendor using this criteria, you will need to document the selection process and then provide quotation to the client. You need to document because, when it is not documented, you know that it is not done. So documentation is very, very key. And then step 3, you need to provide price quote to clients. Consider necessary lead time for procurement. You need to identify and select vendors via request for proposal or a single source justification. And also, you need to issue the request for quotes and provide a quote estimate for the client to approve. Lead time vary depending on the procurement mechanism, impacted by different processes and financial commitments. Some vendors may be pre-qualified, which can shorten the lead time. When you have done selecting your vendors, then you need to do what? Give them request for proposal or single source justification, and you also issue requests for quotes to them. Now, procurement options. There are options for procurement depending on what is to be purchased and condition of purchase. The options to choose depends on contents, the product and quality to be procured, the procurement personnel skills, and the experience, the infrastructure on ground, the access to foreign currency, and timeline. You have procurement options, but the option that you choose depends on what you need to procure. What you need to procure. Now, and the condition of purchase. Now, the option to choose depends on the product you want to procure, like I said, the quality of the product you want to procure, then the expertise of the procurement officer and the experience that he has, and then the infrastructure you have on ground to accommodate this product, and then access to foreign currency and timeline. We have 2 forms of procurement option. We have the direct procurement option, and we have indirect procurement option. Direct procurement option, countries contract directly with the manufacturer. In direct procurement option, countries deal directly with the manufacturer. While in indirect procurement option, countries contract directly with a procurement agent who procures on their behalf. Countries deal directly with the procurement agent who procures on their behalf. Now, let us look at indirect procurement. What are the advantages of indirect procurement? Remember, I said in indirect procurement, the countries engage procurement agents who procure on their behalf. Advantages: it saves money due to adherence to quality assurance procedures. Because they involve expertise in shipping, customs, clearance, and importation regulation, and it prevents demurrage and delays. Service organizations are responsible for vetting suppliers and establishing, quality assurance procedures. And because of that, it saves, it saves money and time. But at times, it can also be more expensive because you need to pay more. You need to pay more. But the bulk of the work is taken off the procurement officer, because you are getting an agent to deal with the vendors. Direct procurement, we have advantage. It's more competitive deals. Disadvantage: significant time and expertise. Small orders may result in fewer or no interested bidders. Direct procurement. Example of direct procurement: some countries have, do their procurement directly. For example, the government of South Africa issues biannual tenders via the National Development of Health for any health-related procurement. And this National Development of Health selects 2 or 3 applicant holders or vendors to contract with, to supply a commodity in order to not solely rely on one manufacturer. The question is, does Nigerian government practice this type of procurement? Maybe it is a research that you need to do and find out for me if Nigerian government practices this type of procurement process. Now, current indirect procurement mechanisms for laboratory commodities. Indirect procurement mechanisms for laboratory services in Nigeria. We have voluntary pool procurement, and this is done through Partnership for Supply Chain Management and voluntary pool procurement through global funds. We have supply chain management system through United States government funds. We have USAID Deliver Project through USAID President Malaria Intervention Fund. We have Clinton Health Access Initiative (KAI) via UNITAID funds. We have UNICEF, United Nations Children Emergency Fund, and United Nations Development Program via Global Fund. All these agencies that I have mentioned are involved in indirect procurement of laboratory commodities. Now, countries determine from whom they will procure. Some countries procure using more than one mechanisms. Note, most international funding agencies practice indirect procurement system where they award procurement contracts to agencies who manage the process and funding allocation. Example, the Global Fund uses voluntary pool procurement option, which is a contract with a Partnership for Supply Chain Management System to procure medical laboratory commodities for developing countries. The United States government has similar mechanism through contract with supply chain management system and the United States Agency for International Development deliver project to procure medical laboratory commodities, antiretrovirals, essentials, and malaria bed nets, respectively. Voluntary pooled procurement. Voluntary pooled procurement is a strategic initiative mechanism established by Global Fund aimed at ensuring a cost-effective and cost-efficient procurement process. Principal recipients of a Global Fund grant participate via an opt-in process. The principal recipient may procure diagnostic and laboratory supplies. Products to be procured are subject to World Health Organization United Nations guidelines. Procurements to be transparent and competitive to obtain product that is reliable, available at the lowest landed cost and meets global fund quality standard. This voluntary pool procurement option, it is a strategic initiative mechanism by the Global Fund that is aimed at ensuring a cost-effective and cost-efficient procurement process. We also have supply chain management system. It is a project contracted by United States government through USAID, which is United States Agency for International Development, primarily to provide supply chain services to programs within PEPFAR. To procure the supply chain management, check their online platform, that is the e-catalog. Products to be procured are subject to federal agency regulation and federal acquisition regulation and USAID acquisition regulation. A memorandum of understanding can be drawn up in cases where United States government procurement requirements conflict with the inter-country procurement laws, where the United States government agency requirement for procurement conflict with the in-country procurement laws. A memorandum of understanding can be signed and the agreement reached on how the procurement should be done. Procurement needs to be transparent and competitive to obtain the best value price with the required assured quality. Now, this is a snapshot of supply chain and Global Fund mechanism. For supply chain management system, the funding mechanism is United States government, and procurement regulation is FAR and USAID acquisition regulation. FAR, that's the Federal Acquisition Regulation, and United States Agency for International Development Acquisition Regulation. Access to mechanism, you can get to their website, PF, that's a Partnership for Supply Chain Management website, Supply Chain Management System website, and it can also be from as a referral from USAID and other in-country personnel. Then vendor, the criteria selection, that is criteria for selecting their vendor is based on best quality, and then quality assurance. Then funding mechanisms is actually supply chain working capital fund. Then we have voluntary pooled procurement option, and funding mechanism is Global Fund, and their regulation, they're regulated by WHO UN guidelines. And then it can only be referred by Global Fund. And they do their selection based on best landed price and then quality assurance. They do direct payments and then mechanism to voluntary pool procurement. Okay. Now let's look at procurement and distribution of controls. What are reagent controls? What are reagent controls? Reagent controls are broad products required to validate instrument performance, quality of results, and proficiency of testing personnel. They are needed to validate instrument performance, quality of result, and proficiency of testing. And these reagent control, they have very short shelf life, that is less than 90 days, and required cold chain, like 2 to 8 degrees Celsius, throughout the storage and distribution system. They must be cold chain, and they have a very short shelf life. And they are manufactured only at specific time of the year based on demand. They are manufactured only at specific time of the year based on demand, and they are instrument specific for closed system. They are instrument specific for closed system. Note, controls are required to validate instrument performance, quality of result, and proficiency of the testing personnel. Without controls, it will be difficult to ensure quality of result given to patients. Without using controls, it will be very difficult to assure quality of result given to patients. Control also help to avoid false positive or false negative results that may adversely affect program performance and destroy patients' and clinicians' confidence in testing results. The use of controls as part of our testing protocols helps us to avoid having false positive results or false negative results. Now, let us look at key steps of procurement process. We are looking at controls. Now, the question is this applicable to controls? We know that we have 4 key steps in procurement: inquiry, quotation, ordering, shipping, and delivering. But in procuring control, does these 4 steps apply to controls too? Yes, but you should know that procurement steps are the same for controls and other medical laboratory reagents. It is the same for controls. It's the same steps you go through for procuring controls and other medical reagents, but controls are done at specific timeline using the manufacturing cycle from the manufacturer, and procurement agents will have to plan in order to fit into the manufacturer's cut-off schedule for controls. And after controls are procured and arrived in the country, distribution to all medical laboratories in the country is another consideration. Remember, when we are discussing procurement, we are not discussing procurement of buying small quantity of product. No, we are talking of buying, procuring bulk products, large quantities of laboratory products, reagents, and other products that we use. Let's have a reflection. Think about Nigeria with over 500 medical laboratories spread across long distances with varying networks. What do you think is the challenge in this distribution? As supply chain advisor, what intervention will you promote or advise country government to implement? What intervention will you promote, advise the government to implement? Think about it. The best approach to the question that I just asked is to plan for controls a year ahead based on quantification, number of machines, distance from each medical laboratory with machine in the country, and lead time. Because controls are used at a specific time of the year, it is better to plan it ahead of time, at least 1 year ahead of time, based on the quantification you have done, the number of machines that you have on ground, and then you have to consider the distance of one laboratory to the other, the time it will take for you to distribute this reagent from where it is going to be domiciled to where it will eventually be used. Note, for a successful medical laboratory-based program, it is important to have a separate supply chain with the control. It is important to have a separate supply chain for the control. Another thing is this. Think back on the section on designing inventory control system. Which one will you recommend for distributing of reagents controlled in the country? What we've done in the past about designing inventory control system, which one will you recommend for distributing controls or control reagents in the country. Consider this scenario. A country has a monthly distribution system. It takes about 5 days for truck to reach the farthest districts of the country. There are instances when these trucks break down, and in some cases, there might be first shortage and other challenges on the road. Bearing in mind that country receive controls at times from the manufacturers with only 1 month of shelf life in many. Now, as a laboratory logistic manager, what will you do as a supply chain advisor to make sure that the farthest place receive the commodities and use them before expiration? What will you do? I think that brings us to consider the challenges that are involved in country distribution of these controls. First, you need to consider a country with over 500 laboratories. Consider that other reagents are distributed monthly from central regional store to the service delivery points. Consider cold chain storage and distribution capacity of medical stores. Consider expiring date of these reagents. Consider that they are brought in the country with almost close to expiring dates. And then consider other challenges that they may encounter on the road, like breakdown of vehicles, shortage of fuel and all that. Then what intervention would you put in place to timely distribute to all labs in the country so to avoid the product expiring in your hand? Options. I would think that the first thing, what we can do to timely distribute this product and avoid them from expiring is to partner with private sector distribution network. Example, FedEx, UPS, we contract them to help us do what? Do the distribution. Next, what do you think is the advantage and challenges of this option? Partnering with this private sector distribution network, do you think there are challenges they can encounter or advantages in using them? I would like to get feedback from you. Control products and distribution should be handled separately from other commodities with longer shelf life. Very, very important. And then controls are very expensive commodities, and efforts should be made to alleviate its expiring at the central level or in transit. I don't know whether you have any question at this stage. We have really said quite a lot. Talked about procurement processes, why we need to have a good procurement plan, why the different steps in procurement. We've discussed controls. I know that I've had exciting time. If you have also had an exciting time, feel free to, if you have any question, please feel free to ask us. We'll be glad to get back to you. I want to say very thank you to our partners. I want to say very thank you to our partners, the USAID, Supply Chain Management System, Nigeria, for helping out. Thank you very much. Thank you for all you do, to make sure that supply chain management is taught in all the universities in Nigeria. Thank you and thank you.